Okay. Okay.
Can you see me? All right. Awesome.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. So, all
We
right.
did that part. That's good.
That worked. Talk. Yeah. Let me turn it up. Okay. So the angle of I never get my camera angle correctly. Is it okay? Do I need to put,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me ask Brad. No, I don't think. Let me ask Brad if he can.
Do we have to let people in? We don't have to do that.
We don't do that.
Okay. What is this?
Did you?
I'm just trying to see. Okay.
Did you see the chat where I said hello? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm starting.
I think I'm just gonna test this out and see if so I'm gonna share this. Can you see that?
I can clearly see it, but it's small.
Okay, hold on. Okay. How's that working?
Same size.
Same size? Really? So it's not big?
You know what? But I have the closed caption on. Let me turn that off. So try it again.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. Entire screen. I'll just pull up entire screen.
Why? My closed caption was taking up half of the screen. I just turned it off because.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna try this again. Share.
So now I see a much bigger screen, and it's sitting on can you? It's on top of you and I.
I can't see it because I'm going full screen.
Okay.
But does this, because from the beginning, it's just going.
Yeah, I can't see the tiny slides on the side, but I can clearly see the larger slides that as they go through them.
Oh, so it's not showing presentation view?
Now it's showing. I'm going to send you a picture of what it's showing.
Okay.
It's showing. Okay, I'm sending this to you.
Oh, geez. Did you text it to me?
Yeah, I'm sending it right there. It's going to take a while to get to. Well, anyway, this is what it looks like. I'm going to hold my phone up.
Okay, so it shows the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's on top of you and I, you see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, they are both asking me if they can get in. They can't get in yet.
I don't. They should be able to. Tell them to calm, and I'm not nervous. I'm gonna ask Jalita.
Okay.
How did you get to the Jalita last time?
I went to the chat.
To this current chat?
Yeah, to the chat, but then you can click on one person, Jalita, and you can like direct message her.
Okay.
And then that's how I did it.
People.
Okay, hold on. Gosh, this is nuts.
Let me see. Sessions. Let me go out to this. Oh, we are live actually, so we're being recorded at this.
Outstanding.
Hi everyone. Let me see. Let me just send Jalita an email. I just sent her an email. My lighting is weird, I think. But
Oh, okay. Hi, Julita. I think that our speakers are in now. Okay, Nicole just got unlogged or logged out, but essentially what we were trying to do was bring everybody in. We were getting some notices from our speakers that they were not able to log in, but I think that is okay. Okay, yes, both of our speakers from the USDA are in right now, and I think we are just waiting on the SBDC, and then we will get started. I think Nicole is still logging in.
There we go.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. So, do you see other people there waiting?
No, I just see it's. I just saw you, but I've got notification from both of my USDA counterparts that they've been able to get in. Nicole just logged out, and I think she's logging back in, but I don't see any requests on the bottom.
That's where they need. That's where they'll be. There's Carrie. Okay,
Oh,
good.
hi, Carrie.
Enter the session. So
Hi.
make sure
Oh my
that when you
gosh.
see them pop up, you click on them.
Okay.
Brandy, I'm sure she can hear us because I could hear you. She
Okay.
needs to click the little share screen and then apply. And then I think it sends you a little thing that you click and we're magically there. It's the magic 8 ball of Hopin, apparently.
Okay. And Carrie, did I do anything to let you in?
I don't know if you did or not, but
I don't see any requests at the bottom of my screen, though.
okay.
It would have looked just like when you let me in.
Okay.
Only the moderator can see that.
Brandy must be here, but she must
She
not have
is.
her
Brandy
camera
is here.
on.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hiding.
Yes. Julita, while I have you really quickly, and thank you so much again for helping.
No problem.
So, as far as sharing screens, can everybody here share their screen?
Yes, and it's the computer that has a red line through it.
Yes, I've got that. Okay. Oh, okay. There's somebody that I'm allowed in. So Brad is our final speaker. So we're all lined up.
Okay. Nicole says, I'm here. Am I a moderator? Nicole, you should be able to click share audio and video at the top.
Hello, Brad.
Hello, how are you?
Great. We're figuring things out live.
Yes.
It's exciting.
There's Nicole. Okay, perfect.
We're all
right.
Any questions for me before I click out?
One quick question. So when I do share the screen for PowerPoint, it's not showing the full screen even when I go to presentation. So instead of sharing just a window, should I try and just share the entire screen?
Can you share your screen and show me what it looks like?
Yeah.
Are you on 2 monitors?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
So I know you can see that, but when I go to, from beginning. So I just started. It should be in presentation mode. Is it showing up in presentation mode?
It's not. Go back to slideshow on the top. It switched over to the SBDCs.
That was me.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was just
wait a
clicking
second.
around. Sorry about that.
So slideshow. So when you click from, so and you said you don't have two screens.
no, I don't.
Oh. let me
Should
go.
I just show the full screen? Would that be better?
Yeah, go to full screen. See what happens.
Okay. Did that work?
It looks good. Yep.
Looks
So that's
good.
okay. I just wanted to. Whoa. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of
So-
weird sometimes when you share everything because then you see the pictures of everyone because you're showing the same screen.
That
Okay,
was
so
like a matrix move. Okay.
perfect. Brad, were you wanting to try yours real quick?
Yeah, I can.
So Brooke, are you going to run the slides for us then?
Yes,
Are
I'll
you-
run the slides.
Excellent.
Carrie, you'll go first, and then Brandy, you'll go next. Okay.
So do we have anyone on the line now? Because if anyone's listening, we're going to get started in 2 to 3 minutes. We're just working out the glitches so we can have this run smooth for you.
Brandy just said she got a network error. She might have to rejoin us.
Okay.
And then how do we tell? I see in the top the little eye thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's how many
there's
people are
13
watching
people.
right now.
Okay.
And then
Hello,
if you
everyone.
even click on where you see it says chat polls people, if you click on people, you can kind of see
Okay.
who's in at the current moment.
Okay.
Nice.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
Brad, we can see your slides excellently.
Right.
And
Can you see mine, you say?
I see
You can
them
see it, but
well.
it's not in the full.
Okay, good.
Brad, you're going to have to share your full screen like I did, because it did not share presentation mode, just letting you know. So instead of picking a window to share, just share your full screen.
So are you seeing presentation mode?
Well, right now we're not seeing anything. No.
Okay.
But when you clicked from beginning, like she did, it did not turn to presentation mode. So just do the share the whole window.
Yeah, share the first option.
I'm trying to, I see a full window on I've got 3 different monitors and I'm seeing
That's
3
probably
different
why
things.
you might have to click and drag over, and switch them out. It does make it harder when you have 3.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens here.
And it looks like Brandy's back.
Welcome, Brandy.
All right, guys, I'm going to click out. Have a good session.
All right, Julita, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
And you know what, Brad? If it's not full presentation mode, but it's what we previously saw, we're going to make
Will that
it
work?
That's going to
Because
work.
whenever I make full presentation, it covers all my screens and I can't see the
Okay.
sessions.
Your
We don't
notes.
need the full presentation. I did clearly see the slides, but I think we're ready to. I see Brandy's on. Brandy, you are on mute.
Brandy, if you go to the bottom, the different selections on the very bottom, there's like CC, the video, the mic, that should be able to help you unmute.
The mic is going to be directly in the middle.
Yes. She says those items are grayed out.
Okay. I'm going to chat with Julita offline, but let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Brooke, and I will work with Julita to help that situation.
All right. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for your patience while we get used to using this platform. My name is Brooke Decubelis. I work with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And I am working in coordination with Nicole Picard from the Small Business Administration. And we are going to be covering rural resources for your businesses. Again, this session is being recorded, so all of our wonderful chat before this was being recorded for posterity. But if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. And we will get to those questions later on in the session. First, we're going to do the presentations, as you all saw a preview of, and then we will move into a Q&A. So I also want to just take this time to thank We Mean Business for inviting the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We're excited to be a part of this, critical part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So thank you very much for allowing us to do a presentation here. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to introducing Carrie Cusick from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up your slides. So just give me 1 second to do that.
Perfect. I'm glad you're running those. That keeps me from messing it up by hitting the wrong button.
All right.
As Brooke said, my name is Carrie Cusick. I work for the Ohio Natural Resources Conservation Service. I am so happy to be here today sharing our agency and our mission and how we can help you today. I think it's wonderful and especially appropriate on a day that's kind of springy. It's kind of warm and rainy out, so I'm kind of itching to get garden and plant some flowers. And I'm sure there's people out there walking the fields right now as we speak, dodging raindrops, wondering when they're going to get out there in the field. So as I said, my name's Carrie. I've worked for the Natural Resources Conservation Service for about 30 years now. Yes, I started when I was 10. That's why I look so young and gorgeous. So I am happy to share with you what we have to offer. It is very exciting for us to be here and share with a new audience, and hopefully you come away with some amazing information today to help you in your agricultural endeavors. All right, Brooke, next slide, please.
Okay.
So I'm just briefly going to talk about our mission. The mission of NRCS is to provide financial and technical assistance to our private landowners. And that can look like a lot of different things. So financial assistance is pretty clear. That's where we can help you maybe get you some funds to help implement some items. And then we can also provide technical assistance. If we can't help you or you don't need any financial assistance, maybe you just want to talk with us about how to implement a certain practice or how to do a project and maybe provide some additional resources on how to make that work on your land. It's our goal to help improve land management, both economically and environmentally. We try to be the whole package in terms of how we can help you make good choices for the land that you're a steward of. And we like to make sure that our mission is to ensure a long-term sustainability of American agriculture in general. And again, that goes back to being a good steward for you, the person, and being a good steward for the land and the environment itself. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk mostly about the financial assistance aspect first, mainly because that's the thing people are usually most interested in from us. What can you do to help me get from point A to point B if point B is my goal? And we offer a wide variety, but these are probably our 4 most popular programs that we offer that can kind of help you out. We have the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and this provides an incentive payment to producers who implement different practices on the land, specifically like, cover crops, could be no-till, could be something in your ag urban garden setting. We kind of have a wide variety. So it provides like a little incentive to help you get a practice started with the hope that you will eventually adopt it. CSP is the Conservation Stewardship Program. And CSP is for a little bit more advanced person, someone that's probably already done some conservation activities on their land. So EQIP's like, put your foot in the door. Let's think about how we can help each other achieve the goals. The goal for us being sustainable agriculture and good stewardship, and the goal for you being whatever that is on your land. And then once you kind of have started that process, we can shift into the Conservation Stewardship Program. This is the largest conservation program in the United States, and it helps you maintain and improve the systems you've already started. So it offers some payments to increase your conservation performance. And it's a little bit longer term program because it's a 5-year program. So when you sign up for EQIP, you're kind of committing to maybe 1 year up to 10 years, depending on, you know, how long it takes you to get through, what your goals are. But CSP is always a 5-year program with an option to renew at the end of the initial 5 years. We also have the ACEP ALE program. And the ACEP ALE program is an easement program. It helps you put your land into an agricultural easement. This is a program we administer in cooperation with our with partners. Sometimes it's a land trust, sometimes it's a state partner to help you implement this agricultural easement on your ground. It could pay up to 50% of the market value of the easement, depending on what type of easement it ends up being. And then in addition to that, we have the ACEP WRE, which is also an easement program. So the first two, EQIP and CSP, no easements. The second two, ACEP AL and ACEP WRE, are easement programs. So those are things that go on your deed. And the WRE program allows us, in conjunction with you, the landowner, to put in a wetland easement where we would help you protect, preserve, and enhance a wetland that is on your property. And again, that's an easement. And then you get a percentage of the fair market value to put that in. And in addition to the costs of any enhancements or buildings or anything like that that you need to do on top of it to make it a really good, high quality wetland. All right, next slide, please. For all of our programs, we have many applicable land uses. And so this is something that I really wanted to have an opportunity to touch on a little bit, because if you think about it, somebody might be sitting here thinking, well, ag, it said rural, it didn't say just ag. That's right, we don't do just ag. And I think that's the beauty of all the programs we have to offer. So we cover a ton of different land uses and resource concern, subsets. So we offer programs on cropland. We offer programs on forest land. We offer programs that strictly are there to help you with your livestock concerns and making sure your animal health is good, in addition to the environmental side of the whole livestock thing. We offer programs that implement wildlife practices like ACEP ALE, and we do other programs that help provide habitat and food for wildlife. So whatever it is, whatever your passion is, if it's forest, if it's agriculture, if it's livestock, if it's wildlife, whatever that is, we have a way to provide you. And so our different programs apply in different ways to those land uses. And when you apply for a program, you come in to talk to the local office. That's when we have the ability to help you figure out kind of where to direct you and how to get you in the right spot, going in the right direction. So we have several options, again, cropland, forest land, pasture land. We don't have range here, but in Western United States, they have the option for range. We have options for associated ag land. So if you have cropland and some land that's kind of set aside, maybe it used to be an old, where an old silo stood or something, and you do nothing with it now, there's some options for all of that. And urban, this is pretty new for us. We've been working in the urban sector for about the last 10 years, but in the last year, it's really ramped up. And this year we have a specific fund code in EQIP specifically for urban. So even if you're like, well, I live, I have this little lot in the city, we still might be able to help you. So, we offer a wide variety of services that cover a wide variety of our land uses. Next slide, please. And now you're like, okay, so you do all these different land uses, but what do you do for me? What can you do for me? So what we do is that we hope to help you implement practices and activities on your land that promote conservation. And in the pictures, we have a pretty good variety here of what we do. So the upper left picture is a picture of a high tunnel, a hoop house. This could be in an urban setting. This could be in an ag setting. They're urban. The high tunnel or the hoop house is designed to help you extend the growing season, to provide that food, that sustainable access to food for a longer period of time throughout the year. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a picture of a composting facility where they're using manure to compost different animals, and each of those bins is a composting bin, and they turn that over, and then they take that out and they're able to use it for fertilizer, either on their own ground. Some places they sell that. You can go, take your pickup truck and be like, hey, I want a load of fertilizer, and you can take it home and put it on your own garden. In the lower left-hand corner, we have a picture of someone planting, putting down some seed in the ground into some bean stubble, it looks like to me. So they're utilizing a no-till system where they're planting something that's out there. And then in the lower right, we show some beans out there where we have residue. The residue is important. It helps keep the soil moist. It helps keep the weeds down, helps you not need so much fertilizer. So these are some examples of the things that we can offer. Our biggest, most common practices: nutrient management, no-till, habitat creation, cover crops, high tunnels, and pest management or invasive species management. And when you are wanting to do something, we are happy to work with you. We develop a conservation plan and help you get in a place to put those practices in place for you to achieve your goals. Next slide, please. So there's a handful of steps to getting assistance from NRCS. And the first one, the most important one, is to find your local office. And on the next slide, you're going to see a couple of websites that you can go into and put your county in. It'll get you contact information or let you send an email to the local contact. So the first is, the first thing we do is work on a plan. We talk about your goals. We talk about, the how we get to those goals, and how do we get to those goals in a conservation friendly manner. You go into the local field office and they'll provide you with technical assistance or advice or whatever you need to help you get started with this process. If you decide after that initial planning visit that you want to apply for a program, they will help you get an application together. They will walk you through the process. They will help you fill out different forms. So there's an eligibility process. They'll help you get that once they get the application in. And the application is used to help start the process, but it's also how if you go through the process to contracting, that's like your initial start to all the information we use to develop your contract in the end. Our applications are taken on a continuous basis. We accept applications year round. We generally have 1 to 3 batching periods throughout the year. So that's when we gather up all those applications that we have. We do our thing with those, and then we distribute funds. And then there'll be another period where we gather all those applications and we look at those and we just distribute funds. Sometimes it's once a year. Some programs it's more than once a year. You just have to talk to the local field office and they'll know and how to get you where you need to be. The next step is eligibility. This is probably the step that we get the most questions on, need the most assistance on. And basically that means that you will go into the Farm Service Agency and you will fill out a series of forms that helps establish you as a USDA customer. And you'll need things like your tax ID. You'll need a deed or a lease agreement. And they will help you figure out a farm and tract number and help you figure out the rest of the paperwork that goes with the eligibility. In order to move forward in any of our programs after the application is accepted, you have to move through the eligibility process. The next step is ranking. So all of our applications we receive, we do an assessment, we talk with you, you decide what you want to offer, we go through a series of questions, you get a ranking score, and then all the similar type practices and resource concerns are lumped together, and we go down the ranking scores to implement our funding. So it's based on that ranking score that we get. And then once you have been accepted, you have an opportunity to sign a contract and move forward with implementing your practices. Next slide, please. So in summary, what do? We help you help your land, help you figure out what you want to do, how to meet your goals. And we can do that in a lot of different ways, but the first step is the same regardless of the program. You need to contact your local office. So you can use the farmers.gov website or the Ohio NRCS USDA.gov website to find your local field office, and you can shoot them an email, you can call them, you can stop in the office. All three of those things are options to get started with your conservation efforts.
All right.
Sounds good. Awesome. That was a lot of good information, Carrie. And during the Q&A session, one of the things that I want you to think about is I'd love to hear a story about a new entrepreneur that you're aware of through your work that utilize these resources and are in a position today that is something that other folks who are interested in pursuing some of the resources that you discussed would like to be in. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yep.
Again, thank you so much. Before I introduce our next speaker, I want to just give some verbal instructions to Brandy. Brandy, if you would be so kind as to log out and then log back in, and then you should be able to have the option to unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak. So if you could just do that, we'd really appreciate it. So moving on to the next, oh, actually, I see you've unmuted yourself. Okay, good. Awesome. So Brad, we're gonna go back to the original agenda, which had Brandy speaking next, and you were gonna go third. So Brandy, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I am now gonna turn the floor over to you.
All right, and Brandy, let me just pull up your slides really fast, okay?
All right, thank you, Brooke. I apologize for the technical difficulty I was having. I don't know if it's because of the rain, something with our internet here, but I apologize. As I was introduced, my name is Brandy Kaler. I'm the Conservation Programs Chief for the Ohio Farm Service Agency. So the Farm Service Agency here in Ohio, we have 66 offices that are located throughout the state. I personally work at our state office, which is located in Columbus, Ohio, and my mission is to provide service to those 66 county offices, advise them on conservation programs, and those folks in our 66 county offices, they get to work directly with the farmers or the landowners or whomever is applying for our conservation programs. Okay. Brooke, I think I'm ready for my first slide.
All right, perfect. Is that showing up?
Yes. Yep. If you can go ahead to the next, please.
Okay.
Okay. So the main conservation program that the Farm Service Agency offers is called the Conservation Reserve Program. We call it CRP for short. This program was established back in 1985, and I'd like to talk a little bit about what was going on in the world back in 1985 to give you a context of how this program came to be. So the farm economy in the 1980s saw some very significant occurrences. The first one was there was record production, which you think would be a great thing, but unfortunately it caused a surplus in farm commodities, which forced the prices down. Also, farmland values dropped 60% in some parts of the Midwest. There were also two very significant drought occurrences that happened One was in 1983, the other in 1988. So basically, all of these things came together. They created a perfect storm. So basically, this crisis was more severe than what we saw back in the Great Depression. Because of all of these things, the Reagan administration created the Conservation Reserve Program. And their intent was to take land out of production, because remember I said there was a surplus in ag commodities. So we were trying to take land out of production, but still provide agricultural producers with income off of their land. So in 1985, CRP was established. It is a voluntary program in which we contract with agricultural producers to ensure that environmentally sensitive land is not farmed, but instead used for conservation benefits. Through CRP, our participants are able to establish long-term resource conserving practices that help to control soil erosion and improve water quality as well as wildlife habitat. CRP is the largest conservation partnership on private lands in the country. CRP, as I mentioned, started in 1985, and it has been authorized in every farm bill since that time. Okay, Brooke, next slide, please. There are several subsets of the CRP program. We have three main types, and I will talk about these in detail here in just a minute. But the first subset, this was the subset that started back in 1985, and we refer to that as general sign-up. In the late 80s, early 90s, we had a new type of CRP that came about. It's called continuous sign-up. And through this sign-up type, we encourage high priority, very environmentally sensitive practices. And lastly, we have our grasslands program. This started under the 2014 Farm Bill. It's actually a working lands program where we allow agricultural producers to make hay or graze livestock on land enrolled under this type of CRP. Okay, Brooke, next slide, please. Okay, so here's just a little bit more detail about those three major subsets of CRP. As I mentioned first, general CRP sign-up. There are specific sign-up periods that are announced by the Secretary of Agriculture. Typically, these periods happen once every year. We are actually currently in a sign-up period. It started on January 31st and runs through March 11th. Under general sign-up, we usually take in whole fields and whole farms. General CRP, it's competitive. So what that means is agricultural producers in Ohio compete with producers all across the country to gain acceptance into this program. So every offer that is made is ranked using what we call the Environmental Benefits Index. Once the sign-up period ends, all of the offers are ranked, meaning they get a score based on our Environmental Benefits Index. And the Secretary of Agriculture sets the maximum and the minimum score for gaining acceptance into the program. Okay, next we have continuous CRP, and as the name suggests, agricultural producers are able to submit an application for this type of CRP on a continuous basis, meaning we can take an application any day of the year. Through continuous sign-up, we encourage high priority practices such as grass waterways, filter strips, and wetlands. And under continuous CRP, we have a few different other sign-up options that are available, such as CRP and SAFE. I'm not going to go into detail on those today, just so I can stay within the time allotted, but I'd be glad to take any questions anyone has on those. Okay, lastly, we have CRP grasslands. As I mentioned before, this is a working lands program where we do allow agricultural producers to make hay or graze livestock on the land that they have enrolled in this program. Just like general sign-up, there are specific sign-up periods held. Again, these are announced by the Secretary of Agriculture. For 2022, our sign-up period will begin April 4th and run through May 11th. All contracts that are enrolled under CRP, doesn't matter whether it's general, continuous, or grasslands, they are required to be 10 to 15 years in length. Okay, Brooke, next slide, please. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about the eligibility requirements for CRP. So as far as land eligibility goes, the land must have been cropped to an agricultural commodity 4 out of 6 years between 2012 through 2017. And when I say ag commodity, I mean, something that is produced through an annual tilling of the soil. So that could include corn, soybeans, or wheat, just as examples. The land must also be legally and physically capable of producing an agricultural commodity, or the land could be considered pasture land. Producers must have either owned or operated the land for at least 12 months prior to submitting the CRP offer. Okay, Brooke, next slide, please. Okay, there are some responsibilities of the CRP participant when they enroll in this program. So first of all, they are required to establish a conservation practice. We offer a wide variety of practices, as I will talk about later in the presentation, but we require the participant to establish that cover according to a conservation plan that will be written for them by NRCS. We ask that the participant properly maintain that conservation practice during the contract period. And as I mentioned, that can be between 10 to 15 years in length. We also require the participant to perform mid-contract management activities. We also ask that the participant retain control of the land for the contract period, the 10 to 15 year period, or have an eligible contract successor. So basically what that means is if a CRP participant decides to sell the land that is enrolled in CRP prior to the expiration of the 10 to 15 year contract, we ask that the person that they sell the land to succeed to that CRP contract. If that does not happen, we will ask for our original participant to refund any payments they have received. So again, penalties could be assessed if there are contract violations. Okay, Brooke, next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about payments. Most typically, this is what everyone is most interested in, and very rightfully so. So depending on the type of CRP that the producer decides to enroll in, whether it's general, continuous, or grasslands, we offer a variety of payments, and they are applicable to the sign-up type. So under continuous sign-up, we offer what we call a signing incentive payment. This is a one-time payment that we make to the participant for enrolling under continuous sign-up. This payment is equal to 32.5% of their first full year annual rental payment. Annual rental payments, we pay those no matter what type of CRP the producer has enrolled under. So annual rental payments, as the name suggests, it's a payment that we make to the producer every year, basically it's a rental payment from the government. We are renting the land from that producer for the CRP contract period. The rental rates are based on the productivity of the soils on the land that the producer has enrolled into the program. So just to give you an example, an average rental rate for Ohio is $126 per acre. We also offer cost share. This is a reimbursement of up to 50% of the participants' out-of-pocket costs in establishing the conservation practice. And then lastly, we offer a practice incentive payment. This is applicable under continuous sign-up. This is also a one-time payment. It is equal to 50% of the total eligible cost of practice installation. Okay, next slide, please, Brooke. Thank you. As I mentioned before, we offer a wide variety of CRP practices. So we work with the agricultural producer. We find out what their goals are for the land and help them select a practice that is right for them. So we offer introduced or native grass establishment. We offer tree plantings, wildlife habitat or pollinator habitat, grass waterways, filter strips, riparian buffers, and wetland restorations. Next slide, please, Brooke. Okay, this is a program that we offer under CRP that I thought might be of specific interest to the group today. This is called the Transition Incentives Program, TIP for short. So this program was authorized under the 2018 Farm Bill to encourage the voluntary transition of land enrolled under an expiring CRP contract from an owner or an operator to a veteran, beginning, or a socially disadvantaged farmer. And we're doing this in the hopes to return the land back to agricultural production through either sustainable grazing or crop production. Owners and operators who qualify for TIP may be eligible to receive CRP annual rental payments for up to 2 additional years after the CRP contract expires, provided that the transition of land is not to a family member. And what I mean by family member is grandparents, parents, children, grandchildren, siblings, or spouses. $50 million has been authorized for TIP enrollment from 2019 to 2023. All expiring CRP contracts are eligible for TIP. Next slide, please. TIP enrollment is conducted on a continuous basis until the $50 million are exhausted. Beginning, veteran, and SDA farmers and CRP participants may enroll 2 years before the scheduled date of the CRP contract expiration or until the $50 million limit is reached. To be eligible, an owner or operator must be a farmer on land that is in an expiring CRP contract. The owner or operator must agree to sell or have a contract to sell or agree to lease long-term. What we mean by long-term is at least 5 years, the land enrolled in an expiring CRP contract to a beginning, veteran, or SDA farmer who is not a family member. The owner or operator must agree to permit the beginning, veteran, or SDA farmer to make conservation and land improvements according to an approved conservation plan, which would be developed by NRCS. The beginning, veteran, or SDA farmers participating in TIP may re-enroll eligible land under CRP. The beginning, veteran, or SDA farmers must materially and substantially participate in the operation of the farm involved in the CRP contract modification. Beginning, veteran, or SDA farmers may be eligible for enrollment in some of the NRCS programs that Carrie talked with you about this morning, such as CSP or EQIP. We do have a TIP fact sheet that does provide the definitions of beginning, veteran, and SDA farmers, and that is available on the National FSA website. Okay, last slide, Brooke, please. Okay. If you have additional questions on FSA conservation programs, there is a link to our national website. Like I mentioned before, there's some very helpful fact sheets available on that website. You can also see a full listing of all of the conservation practices that we offer under CRP. or you can always contact your local FSA county office or myself.
All right. Thank you so much, Brandy, for this presentation. I just really wanted to quickly highlight that there are a lot of different websites out there, but an easy one to remember will be farmers.gov. They cover an overview of both Farm Service Agency as well as the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So in addition to those websites that both Brandy and Carrie mentioned, farmers.gov is just kind of a quicker, easier thing to remember as well. So thank you, ladies, so much. Really appreciate the overviews that you've given for our programs, and we'll definitely have some more questions for you later on.
Thank you, Brooke. So Brandy, what I want you to be thinking about, similar to what I asked Carrie to be thinking about a question before we get to Q&A, is there a service that matches farmers to those socially disadvantaged farmers or veterans who are interested in purchasing the land? You don't have to answer now. Maybe it's a very simple question, but we'll get to that in the Q&A section. But first, before we do that, I would like to introduce Brad Babst, who is the SBDC director, who is housed in the Piketon location. I so appreciate you joining today. The Small Business Development Service, or the Small Business Development Center, is an integral part of the Small Business Administration. We are very closely aligned and work very closely together. So he is here to talk about services and programs that the SBDC has to offer for the rural entrepreneur in general, and something specifically for the farmer. Good. Thank you, Brad.
All right. Hey, thank you, Nicole. And I'm going to try to share my screen here. We'll see if it works. Let's see where we're going. Is yours flashing?
Yes, it is flashing, okay. But now it's stopped flashing.
Stop. Yes. All right. Now, does everything look okay there?
We can see the other slides on the side, but you know what? I can also clearly see the main slide. So,
all right. We'll work with that then. I changed a couple of settings, but it's not, I don't think, going to work. So anyway, we'll see. So anyway, like Nicole said, my name is Brad Babst, and I am with the Small Business Development Center here at The Ohio State University. Many of you probably have heard of Small Business Development Centers. What we do is, we work with entrepreneurs and help them through the process of, growing their business or getting their business started. Small Business Development Centers in Ohio are located all across the state. Currently, there are 14 different center locations across the state of Ohio. And typically, the SBDCs are housed at sometimes universities, sometimes chambers of commerce or economic development agencies, and some are even housed by port authorities. Those are the host organizations, so that's where they're located. So in our example, here at Piketon, we are hosted by the Ohio State University. So I'm an Ohio State University employee, but the funding that operates our SBDC pays my salary and my coworker's salary here on our SBDC team comes from the Small Business Administration, which is Nicole's organization there, the SBA, the federal agency. And it's also matched by some funds from the state of Ohio through the Ohio Department of Development or the Development Services Agency. The name kind of changes around a little bit different times, but that's where the other part of the funds come from. And our local host, which is the Ohio State University here at the South Centers, they also contribute some matching funds to make this program happen, to be a resource for the entrepreneurs. So like I said, we do work with both small businesses, which the federal government's definition, I believe, is around 500 employees or less. So that's still a pretty good size business. Just about any business in our entire region here qualifies to be a small business. And we also work as a part of the SBDC. We have a component that helps folks export goods or services to other countries. So that's a benefit also to folks in helping them grow the local economy. Because, if we can ship goods and services to other countries, that brings that money back to the location where that business is located at. And that actually is a true economic growth in that region. And also with the SBDCs, that's one thing to note. There are different areas of expertise within the small business development centers across the entire state of Ohio. So one thing that makes our SBDC a little bit different than other SBDCs that you may know of is we are connected to the Ohio State University, and more specifically with the the College of Agriculture. Our SBDC staff, we also have, let me try to get my slides to change here. Just bear with me. I don't know how to go to the next slide. All right. How did I change that?
Can you use the arrow key?
There we go. I was in the wrong window. There we go. So anyway, we're a little bit different. As you can see there, we are a staff of certified business advisors. So each SBDC counselor has to go through an extensive training program to be a certified business advisor. And we have to keep up with our professional development activities to keep that certification going. So we are trained. And like I said, the differences in the SBDCs around the state, one that is probably very unique to our center here is the experience in agriculture that we have, and which is really very applicable to the rural community. Myself, I have a lot of experience in agriculture. Grew up on a farm, grain crops, beef cattle, small fruits, still do a lot of that stuff today. Have a couple other coworkers who are very invested in agriculture, live on farms. So we're able to really connect with those entrepreneurs in the rural communities who are looking to do, especially the rural-based businesses, like Carrie and Brandy spoke about, some of those programs. If you have property, if you have livestock, if you have farmland, we can help you probably a little bit better just because of our inherent knowledge of the industry versus some folks who might be a SBDC advisor in another region who, really don't have that ag background. Because the ag community is a very tight-knit community, and it's just, it's one of those things. You speak the language, so to speak. So what do we do with the SBDCs? We do provide the no-cost, free of charge, confidential, one-on-one counseling, helping folks put together business plans, do financial planning, and helping them put together essentially that loan package that they need to borrow the money for their business project in most cases. So it's very important, especially for a lot of these programs, and we'll even go back to the presentations earlier where we're talking about changing the operation of your business or looking to get into a business. A lot of times people are passionate about doing conservation activities, because, obviously it's the right thing to do. But, you look at it from a business perspective, we want to make sure that it's the right thing to do financially for your farm, which is a business. So we want to try to be smart about that. And, jumping into these projects, I know there was planning mentioned, filling out a worksheet, to get into these programs, kind of help put a plan together. Business plans are a great way to do that. Obviously a business plan, it's your roadmap for your project. It helps to answer a lot of the questions for your project, the good old who, what, when, where, and how questions of this project, how it's going to take place. So that's one of the core things that we do as a small business development center is we provide those services to entrepreneurs or someone who's looking to grow their business, to help them through that process of really just understanding everything about the project that they're getting into. We don't write the business plan for individuals, but we do focus on the educational aspect of that. We help them with the research. We help them make sure that the plan's complete. We're kind of that third party, almost like your high school English teacher who, you start putting together a research paper and you turn it in to the teacher, and they go with the red pen and they mark it all up and they say, leave this out. We need more information here. Please explain this better, add a chart here. That's kind of a lot about what we do. We kind of look at the business plan and see where the gaps are, where the holes are, just to help that entrepreneur kind of clear up those questions that they may not see. And many times, the entrepreneur may have that information already, but, they're just so close to the plan that, they understand it. They know what they're talking about, but, when they present that project or that information to like a bank or somebody that's evaluating the plan, well, it's not very clearly evident to them. It's kind of one of those things that's hard to see the forest for the trees. So we just kind of help them through that process and make sure that everything they're doing is very understood by all parties that's involved. We also work a lot with the financial projections. Obviously, if we're in business, me personally, I'm in business because I want to make money. And we want to make sure that the project is going to make money financially. We want to make sure it's going to make sense. We don't want to invest a lot of money into a project where we may have to just work ourselves to death for a little return. We want it to be profitable. We want it to be something that we know what the potential incomes are for the business. We know what the potential expenses are. Again, eliminating those surprises along the way. If we work a lot with individuals who are, going to get a loan at the bank, the bank wants to make sure that project is going to cover the expenses. And not only do they want to make sure that it's going to be profitable for the individual who's starting the business, but they also want to make sure that they're going to get their loan payment made every month too. Very important to them. So, demonstrating that through, a spreadsheet with financial projections, extremely important to those institutions. One of the things that makes our SBDC, strong, and any SBDC strong, obviously, is, the relationship with their host and the information, just the networking that they have. And ours is through the College of Ag. We not only have ties to the College of Ag and our staff here at the South Centers, we're also tied to OSU Extension. OSU Extension is present in every county across the state of Ohio. That's your county agricultural agents, your 4-H program. And, they're very closely tied to all the rural communities across the state of Ohio. So we have a great network of colleagues around the entire state of Ohio. We also have other business-related programs here at the South Center. We have the Center for Cooperatives. That's a very big program in the rural communities. So cooperative is, multiple businesses that might join together, multiple small businesses, I should say, that join together to form a business of small businesses. And then that business then has, the operational power and the leverage of a large business. So, for example, cooperatives are very popular in agricultural related businesses. A lot of times they're for purchasing. So if you have 10 producers that, maybe small individual producers, that they only buy a certain amount of products and services, well, now those 10 can join together as one, and now they have the purchasing power, let's say, of a company that's 10 times their size. So that helps them leverage better deals financially, helps them leverage, availability of product quicker, lots of benefits to that. So we do have a Center for Cooperatives here at the South Centers that can help cooperatives get started. So, They're right across the hall from us. So that's another great resource that we have. We have a manufacturing extension partnership here at the South Centers, and that helps a lot with manufacturing companies. That's what their primary focus is. But, the manufacturing programs are very prevalent in the rural communities as well. Our partnership with our local chambers of commerce and economic development offices, those are very strong here in our region. We work directly with all of those. Typically, when we meet with folks, we don't just meet here at the South Centers. We do go out into our counties that we serve. And by the way, our counties are, right here in Southern Ohio. We cover 10 counties. As far west as, Brown County, Adams County, Highland County, up north into Fayette, a little bit of Pickaway, Ross County, and as far west as Vinton and Gallia. So that's kind of our service area right here in the very central southern part of the state. We also work a lot with banks, small business administration lenders, other lending institutions. We have good relationships with them. That helps us to, take those folks that are looking for projects. We partner with them and get them to the right institutions who are able to, make some loans. Different banks have different focuses. Some are more interested in working with the rural agricultural community than others. So, we have relationships with those folks, and we can help get folks to the right institutions to get their loans. That's kind of an overview of kind of the services and things that we do provide. I will mention that, over the past probably 15 years, we've spent a lot of time working, exclusively with the rural community here in Southern Ohio, working with a lot of farmers, helping them develop business plans to access funding through a former grant program that was available through the Southern Ohio Community Development Foundation, or the SOA-CDF, which was a program that was designed, 15, 20 years ago. There was a big lawsuit settlement with several states here in the country against the tobacco companies for selling tobacco products and marketing to, not really advertising the ill effects of tobacco usage. So there were millions and millions of dollars awarded to different states. So Ohio took part of that money and made it available to, farmers who used to grow tobacco, because, obviously their income stream went away whenever the tobacco production kind of went away as well. So there was a program to help those folks to diversify their businesses, so they could get a small grant to help them diversify their enterprise. But a part of that grant requirement was writing business plans. So every year we would help farmers put together, probably we worked with about 50 to 75 businesses or different farmers each year to help them through that educational process of, developing a business plan and a financial plan for their farm. So we have a lot of experience working with the rural community, with planning and accessing programs like that for farmers. So that's just kind of a real world example of a lot of the work that we did in the rural community. So that's about all I have, and we can
awesome
back over to Nicole, and we can
Well, I know we have some great questions coming forth. I want to follow up with you first, Brad, because this is this entire We Mean Business event was a 3-day multi-area coverage area. Before I get into the question, I just want to say that Brooke is my co-moderator. She may have a follow-up question. She may have a different question, and vice versa on my end. We're going to be working together. We actually used to work together at the Small Business Administration, so this is kind of a fun treat for both of us.
Yes.
So Brad, so to kick off to you, the We Mean Business, it was very important for us to have a day that was dedicated to rural resources focused on the rural community. But if I am in Cincinnati and I am listening to all your programs and services, And because we are now in a world where an employee could be located anywhere and still service their employer. And now they're thinking, hey, I love what the rural community has to offer my family. I think I want to move out there. Could someone from Cincinnati work and engage with your office as they begin to make that transition to the rural area, and do a change of lifestyle, if you will?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we have no boundaries now, I guess you could say, since one of the benefits of the pandemic is, you know, it's really it's forced us to use technology to communicate and to work together. You know, for example, I just received a client request about 2 weeks ago from an individual who owns some property in the Columbus area, who currently lives in New York. And he's interested in developing, you know, that property into a small scale working farm with growing some, you know, aquaculture and produce, things like that, looking to develop that into a business. And so, you know, I'm working with him, serving as a resource to kind of help him through that process. So yeah, absolutely. Cincinnati, no problem. We can do New York.
Awesome. And Brandy, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brooke.
I actually had a kind of a follow-up question, but I guess more geared towards Carrie. So say somebody is in Cincinnati and they are wanting to stay in Cincinnati. Can you highlight a little bit more of that urban agriculture, some of the success stories that you've seen with, you know, high tunnels, that sort of thing? I know that Michaela Whirling had presented earlier in this conference, I believe on Monday, kind of touching on that. But can you also kind of summarize and maybe provide a success story on that?
Sure. We have had some really great opportunities here in Ohio to pilot some of the urban agriculture items for the last several years that have now finally kind of branched out and gone nationwide. And I'm so excited this year because our urban agricultural offering has been extended to every county in Ohio. So it's not just the Cincinnati metro area or the Cleveland metro area, but we have several instances where we had someone that was maybe doing a community garden or doing a garden on a vacant lot. And they were able to come to us. They met the eligibility because they were considered an ag producer. They had produced a product on their land. The ground was considered cropland because they had raised something. Those are some of our eligibility criteria. They were able to take what they were doing and expand it. High tunnel, micro irrigation system. We've even done some, I don't want to say parking lots, but some places where they could set up a stand so that they could sell their product. Sometimes it's a community garden where everybody chips in and they get to take a little bit. And sometimes it's a community garden where they put a produce stand out and they provide that access to that fresh produce in places where we don't have that access. And one of our ranking criteria, you get points if you're in what's considered a food desert as per the census. So that's a way we try to provide, you know, community access to the fresh food, entrepreneurial access to someone that's learning to run a business, right? To take it from product to market. Utilizing land that is not being utilized for anything else. You know, we're growing a product, we're using what we have there to do that. And a lot of these are having school groups come through. So we're providing that whole education piece, not on just the use and recipes for the food that they're providing, but how to raise them, you know, how to take care of them and how to be a part of that. And so it just strengthens the community all the way around.
That sounds amazing. And I have to tell everyone who's participating on this, the subject matter experts, that if there's a video available of this or a recording, I hope there is. And Deborah, could you please confirm? I will be watching it again because there was so much information that I know will be applicable to the community that I service. But in asking my questions, please forgive me because I may not have the technical speak as accurate. So for my question to Brandy, during your segment, you spoke about a program in which an existing farmer could sell property to a veteran or a farmer who is of a disadvantaged population. Are there services like matchmaking services to match the seller with the potential buyer or long-term leaseor? Because I saw that was an option as well.
There are certain things that we can provide, although we're somewhat limited, due to Privacy Act restrictions. But what we do, we have a monthly newsletter that we can send out to anyone that signs up for it. And the purpose of this is so we can make sure that our existing customers, so our folks that are already enrolled in CRP that have an expiring contract, know that TIP is an option for them in the last 2 years of their contract. We also want to reach out to folks. I'm sure we have beginning, veteran, and SDA farmers that are involved. They do business with us already, and they receive our newsletter. So we apologize for the dog in the background. So we try to connect folks that way just by making sure that everyone is available of the services that we provide. The other thing that we do, beginning, veteran, or SDA farmers, they have an option to submit to us under the Freedom of Information Act a request where we can provide names and addresses of folks that participate in the CRP program, that receive payments through CRP. That's a little trickier because, just because somebody shows up on the list does not mean they have expiring CRP. We also don't provide like email or phone number. It's really just a names and address list. So the beginning, veteran, or SDA farmer, they have a little bit of work to do on their end, some research, to contact those folks. But that is something else that we can provide.
It's good to know. Good to know. Good to know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to also kind of touch base, both Carrie and Brandy. So FSA and NRCS, how closely do you all work together? If somebody's just starting out, do they have to go to one office and then another office? Do you all share the same system?
Yep.
Are you in the same building for convenience? Are you in the same building? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we NRCS is really lucky, and I'm just going to say I think FSA is pretty lucky. Also because we are kind of, I would call us sister agencies. We work together, and in a lot of cases, someone only needs to provide that basic information to one of us, and we get to share it. So we don't have. There's not a lot of duplication. If you wanted to come in and talk to both of us. In most cases, I'm not going to say all or every, but in most cases, we're co-located. We're in the same building. In some places, we're in the same office. It's the same door you walk in. It's like, oh, who do you want to talk to today? You can talk to all of us. Sometimes we're across the hall. There's a few instances where we're not co-located, but the relationship is so great. We're so lucky to have them as a partner, along with a lot of other partners that we work with, that we're able to communicate with each other pretty regularly, even if we're not co-located. We're able to get with each other to make the participant, the applicant's job as easy as possible. And we're really lucky that we've been able to develop that relationship. And we do share some software, so that makes things even easier for us to kind of be together, as opposed to making you run 8 places to get all this stuff filled out. So
nice. I mean, convenience is the key, particularly in today's society. So the fact that you guys work so closely together and are so closely aligned, that makes your service offering so much more attractive to the new participant. So that's really good to hear. Brad, I wanted to ask you, you spoke a little bit earlier about co-ops and some of the successes that you've had. Can you please speak as much as you can? A lot of people, when they think of co-ops, they think, it is multiple smaller entities gaining strength for a larger ability to sell. But some of the fears that people may have, or some of the fears that are, people have in joint ventures, even outside of farming, how does one protect themselves? Or do you guys provide the services or the resources where you can recommend folks? How does an individual in that co-op adequately protect themselves should things not work out?
Well, that's a good question, and that's one of the things that our co-op center here does is they work with that group of individuals, and go through kind of the whole planning process, strategic planning, putting that entire framework together for that co-op development. And one thing to keep in mind, when you're looking at the rural community and you're talking about farmers, let's say, farmers are very independent individuals, and getting a group of farmers together and to the point where they actually form a co-op is a challenge, because, they all have their own way of doing things. And most people who are farmers or involved in agriculture are involved in agriculture for one reason, because they want to be their own boss. And, working through that entire process and, all the paperwork and making sure that everyone's happy with where the bus is going, it is a challenge. But, like I said, our co-op center does a very good job with that. They've, over the past couple of, 5 or 6 years, they've put together, just a couple of co-ops that I can just use as an example. One year they put together a group of farmers who were growing pumpkins. So let's say they had, I think there were maybe, let's say, and I'm just, for an example, 10 different producers who were growing pumpkins. And maybe each one had, an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres of pumpkins. Well, now you put those 1, 2s, and 3s together and you multiply that by 10, and now you've got 25 to 30 acres of pumpkins. So now you can go to like a customer like Giant Eagle, who they actually ended up getting a contract with Giant Eagle to supply pumpkins to Giant Eagle. Now, a little producer by themselves couldn't do that. But now, under the organization of that cooperative, one point person who's, the designated representative that kind of goes and does the business dealings for that business, it takes a lot of buy-in from each individual business, and they have to sacrifice some things. But the reward in the end is, well, now, we've got a contract. We've got some really good pricing for the products that we can produce. And essentially, we know how much we have to grow and it's going to be sold. So we don't have to go out and find a market for all these little, a bunch of little markets for our product. Now we can just focus on growing it. That's what we do best. A lot of times farmers just want to produce. They don't really want to go through the entire marketing phase. So, obviously there's framework and bylaws and things put in place to protect those, individuals that, they have to be, if they want to be a part of the co-op, they have to go with that set of structured rules that are put in place.
Nice.
All right.
The co-op center helps put that together.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
So I'm going to throw it back over to conservation really quickly. And Brandy, I wanted to ask you, just for, the typical person who may not understand the big differences between CRP and then some of those other conservation practices that Carrie had mentioned. Can you kind of summarize that?
Yep, sure. I'll give it a try. So probably the main difference between CRP and the conservation programs that NRCS administers is the fact that for CRP, it has to have that cropping history. So it has to be planted to an agricultural commodity 4 out of 6 years from 2012 to 2017. The land has to be physically and legally capable of being cropped, or it could be marginal pasture land. So I do believe, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a big difference between CRP and CSP or EQIP.
Okay, and then as far as contract lengths, they seem to vary. So is CRP typically a lot longer than EQIP or CSP?
Yep, that's a great point. Yep. CRP is more of a long-term commitment. It can be anywhere from 10 to 15 years. Some of the different practices that we offer under CRP have certain lengths. So some contracts have to be 15 years in length. Some are only 10. These are things that are determined by our national office in Washington, D.C. when they wrote the rules for the program. But we do have some practices where the producer can decide. So they can pick any contract length between 10 or 15 years.
Okay. And so what would be the incentive? Why would a farmer want to take, land out of production and put it into the CRP program?
Sure. Well, the great thing about CRP is it is guaranteed income. When a farmer plants a crop, there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to harvest that crop and it's going to be successful. The great thing about CRP is we guarantee that income to the producer for that 10 to 15 year period. Now, granted, there are, as I mentioned in my presentation, there are some requirements. There's things that we ask of the participant, but as long as they abide by the contract requirements, they are guaranteed that income for the 10 to 15 year period. So it just provides a little bit of stability.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, I think, what I want to do is talk a little bit about misconceptions or misperceptions of these programs that you spoke about. Because I remember, before coming to this particular event, I would hear people say, so do you actually mean the government will pay people to not grow crops on their land? And thinking it was just as simple as that. Tell me, what would you consider to be, based on maybe inaccurate information, one of the biggest mistakes someone could make attempting to get into the program?
Yep, great question. So at the beginning of my presentation, I gave a little bit of background about how CRP came to be and the things that took place back in the 1980s that, caused CRP to exist. And back in 1985, when the program started, a lot of farmers called it a set-aside program. So basically, they took the land out of production and they never touched it again for 10 to 15 years. So the program has evolved very significantly since that time, where we are asking the producer to establish a resource conserving cover that will, prevent soil erosion, help wildlife habitat, benefit water quality. So I think that's a misconception that, farmers want to enroll in CRP, and then they think that once they get that practice established, then they can walk away from it and don't have to do anything again for 15 years. As we all know, here in Ohio, we basically have the perfect climate for growing things. And, that is very true of our CRP covers as well. If you sign up to plant prairie grass and you don't touch that piece of land again for 15 years, by the end of that contract period, you're going to have a solid stand of trees. So a misconception is you plant that cover and you walk away for 10 to 15 years. That cover requires maintenance every year. And NRCS is nice enough to include those instructions in the conservation plans that we provide to the participants. So we do ask that they abide by the terms and conditions of the contract and the conservation plan, and they maintain that cover appropriately. And that's so, that we can get the most environmental benefits as we can out of that cover.
That really dispels a lot of myths that may be out there. So I really want people to particularly pay attention to what you just said, because you could get in trouble, right? You could think one thing, right, before you hear this information and find out that it's an entirely different situation as you go in further. So Carrie, kind of following up on my question to Brandy, what would you say are some of the myths that you find yourself having to dispel, maybe when someone reaches out for some of your service offerings?
Well, okay, so there's a couple that come to mind really quickly. The first is that our money is a grant. And there's a big distinction between what we do and a grant. Usually a grant is something you apply for, you receive money, you take the money, you go do a project. Our money is such that there's buy-in from the producer. So if we go to a contract and you agree to implement a practice, you are going to have some costs involved in that. We're going to tell you exactly how much money we're going to give you, but you also will probably have some costs. Unless you're really savvy, you're going to have some cost invested. So it's not a grant where we're handing you money specifically without having any skin in the game, so to speak, I guess is how I would put it. The other thing is our practices all have a standard and specification. So if you come to us and you want to put up a hoop house or a high tunnel, we have rules that you need to use to put your high tunnel up. You know, when you order it, how it's put up, how it's maintained, all of those things relate, and they're all spelled out in your contract document. So those are probably the two biggest. The third is, you know, we're really lucky, like FSA, we have a lot of funds set aside for our socially disadvantaged, veteran farmers, limited resource farmers, beginning farmers. We have all of these funds set aside to help people. But if you walk in the door and you say, I want to be a farmer and I've never done it before, I don't have any land, I don't have any animals, I've never grown a crop, we can provide you with technical assistance and help you get started in that process. But we cannot give you financial assistance until you have already partaking in some of those items. We're able to help you get set up, but not financially until you have shown us that you know kind of a little bit what you're getting into. And sometimes that's something we run into a lot.
It's government funds. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
And Carrie, I have a follow-up question. Brandy had mentioned, you know, the rate, the CRP rate of payment. Is there, I mean, how much money can I get as a landowner?
How much land do you have? What kind of practices are you doing? So every one of our programs differs a little bit. So if you're doing an easement program, it's a percentage of the market value you will know going in. It's established what the market value is for that type of land. If it's the conservation stewardship program, there is a set rate per acre for different land uses. So for pasture, for cropland, for forest land, there's a different set rate that you get the annual payment. And then there's rates associated with each enhancement that you could do or activity that you could do. In EQIP, it's usually based on the practice type. So if you're doing a cover crop, maybe you're going to get $25 an acre to implement that cover crop. We have limits on the amount of contract money, and it all goes back to what practices you're doing and how much ground you have, because that's how we calculate everything. For EQIP specifically in the Farm Bill we're in, it's a $450,000 cap on your contract. I would say the majority of our contracts, if you're talking about the urban side, the small farm side, I would say they're probably, you know, small pasture operations, small forest operations. I would say you're talking about anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. If you're talking about a large confined animal feeding operation, you might be talking more on the $250,000 to $300,000 end. Or if you're a very large crop producer, you could be getting a very significant payment if you're implementing something like cover crops on, you know, 1,000 acres. So it really varies with us, and all of that can be calculated at the local level. They're the ones that do all that for you.
Okay, thank you.
So I see we do have a question in the chat. I'm going to ask that. But first, before I ask that question, this entire event, it was a focus on rural businesses. And we know that rural businesses can come in many different forms. And so before I get to Deborah's question, I would like for Brad to talk about the rural entrepreneur outside of a farmer. And does your SBDC often work with rural entrepreneurs who are not in farming? And can you give an example?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. So regardless of what kind of business somebody wants to start, we assist them through that process. Currently, right now, I'm working with, just for example, 3 different convenience stores. So, and many of those have like a small kitchen with pizza, gas, convenience items. I believe all 3 of them have that. Not big things, not big stores. A couple of them are, one of them's been a vacant building for 2 or 3 years. Someone's looking to purchase and revitalize that because of a new campground that's opened across the street from the location. So those are pretty small rural businesses. Working with someone who lives, just a few miles from here, that is opening up his wife has a passion for dogs and grooming dogs, and they're looking to start a dog kennel with grooming and boarding. So, that's a pretty rural business here in the area. So just lots of, you name it, we've probably seen it.
Good. I mean, it's really good to have you discuss that, because a lot of people, who are not necessarily from the rural community aren't as aware of the diversity in terms of entrepreneurship that exists there. And so it's so important for folks to know, should they want to reside in a rural community, there are resources to assist them with the farming aspect of in business, but as in addition to general entrepreneurship. So it's really good to hear those examples. I'm gonna read a question from the chat board from Deborah Davis. And she's asking, are there training programs for farm producers, such as Market Ready with USDA or other government entities, which focuses on those areas specific to the needs of farmers? Anybody can take it.
Well, I'll just share a little bit. I know a lot of our colleagues, I mentioned Ohio State University Extension. A lot of our county agriculture and natural resource educators that are out there, a lot of them do a program, usually on a yearly basis, called Small Farm College. And it's designed as far as an educational process for folks who are looking to, maybe they just purchase some land. And it goes through the whole kind of training process. What are the opportunities? What can I do with my land? How can I make income? And I know in the past, our SBDC has participated with some of those, talking about the business planning and the access to capital components. But they also, go on some field trips and tours and see some different agricultural things in motion firsthand, make some farm visits. So that's kind of one thing that, Ohio State University Extension does across the state.
I want to actually respond a little bit to, as far as from a conservation and practice perspective, we have some demonstration farms that we work with. We have a number of partners. So if farmers or producers are interested in seeing conservation practices on the landscape and hearing directly from farmers who have put that in place, one of our more, well-known demonstration farms is the Blanchard Demonstration Farm Network. And we have three producers that are engaged in that, and they've done a number of conservation practices on the landscape. And I can provide that link in the chat. So that's something that I think is good to talk about, maybe a little bit more about the extensions and what they can provide to beginning farmers or anybody interested in rural entrepreneurship. Can you expand on that a little bit more, Brad or Carrie?
Well, I can let Brad talk about extension. I was going to mention 2 things also. First thing I would have said was extension also. So thank you, Brad. I really appreciate that. I would say one thing is your local conservation office, whether it's NRCS, your soil and water office, extension, any of them will have people. If you go in and say, I want to start a farm, but I want to talk to a farmer. I want to talk to somebody that raises fruit trees. I want to talk to somebody that is raising cattle. They can help you network and connect with people. I think farmers are the friendliest people ever, and they often will spend hours talking with you if you want them to about what they're doing out there and what their plans are and what the hard things are and what the easy things are. So I think that that is definitely one way to go. The other thing I was going to say, if you're organic in nature, USDA does have an organic webpage. You can go on there. They will help you with the certification and transition process to organic farming if you're looking to go into the organic farming. So that is a specific thing also. I don't know if Brad he wants to talk more about extension or not, but.
Yeah, one thing other than the small farm college, here where I work at the OSU South Centers, we do have a horticulture program. They do a lot with small fruits and vegetables and hops and aquaculture. All of those different programs typically have field nights or field days where, folks who are interested in that particular area of production, can come, see firsthand what the university is doing, get hands-on, get training. I know they're doing I think maybe this coming week, doing a pruning workshop for individuals who grow berry or brambles like blackberries or raspberries or blueberries. So there's a lot of educational things that the university does. So it's, and there's also, the resources there through the educators that are very specific in those areas that can help you through that process. That's kind of one of the unique things about the South Centers is we have the actual production and the research here, but we have our business program who can actually help you put a plan together to make sure the whole project is right for you.
Thank you for that information. I mean, I just really want to reiterate the point that once this event has concluded, Deborah said, and she put in the chat function where you can find a recording of this session. I will be watching it again because you guys have brought forth some information that I may have heard about, but you guys have dived into it in a way that I need to better understand for the communities that I service. I am hearing so much of an interest in folks wanting to go back to their rural area, or maybe that's where they were originally from. And now, because again of the new way that people are working now, want to return to the area and want to think about ways of providing an income through the lands for their family. So this has been fabulous. I know Carrie and Brandy, your information has been provided. And actually, Brad, you provided your information in your slide. Is there any parting words that our panel would like to provide for those who have watched today and for those who will watch once the recording becomes available? So just your final thoughts before we conclude today's event. And I'll let Brooke have concluding words once you're finished.
I was just going to say, don't be intimidated by asking questions. I mean, come into the office, whether it's our office or extension or FSA or the local soil and water, whatever it is, don't be intimidated. We're here to provide information and help you. And we want to help you promote agriculture and be a part of that, So don't be afraid to come in. If we can't help you, we will find someone that can help you. We will direct you the way that you need to be directed, but just don't be afraid to walk in that door, because that's often the thing we hear is people are like, well, I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I didn't want to come talk to anybody. Don't be afraid to come talk to us. We're pretty nice people for the most part, I think. So we will help you figure out what you need to do.
Carrie, that's excellent advice for life. Don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to walk through the door. Okay, next up.
Okay, Carrie, you kind of stole my thunder there, but yeah, I just want to reiterate what Carrie said. We're public servants. Your tax dollars pay our salaries. We are here for you. So please come in, ask us questions. And just a plug for FSA, we offer so many other programs other than the one I talked about today. We do farm loans. We have disaster assistance programs. We offer loans to do farm storage structures. So, even if necessarily you're not interested in CRP, still talk to your local FSA folks because there might be something else for you. But like Carrie said, don't be afraid to ask.
Great advice, great advice. And I want to direct everyone's attention to the web sites that have been populated in the chat by Brooke. So please take note of those. And final parting words for Brad.
Well, and I guess I will just say, don't be afraid to dream.
Like it.
But, however, be grounded in that dreaming. And, business planning is a great way to make sure that what you're wanting to do is an applicable project. I mean, we want you to be successful, but we also want you to be profitable and smart when you do it.
Thank you so much. And again, there are a couple of resources in the chat, but honestly, I think that what everybody can take from this is a beginning point. And we really encourage you to reach out to these resources, to these speakers, and also to look at some of these websites and just explore what is available to you as a rural entrepreneur. And again, I just want to take the time to once again thank We Mean Business. This has been a really wonderful conference, and I hope that everybody has gotten a lot from this, as well as the entire conference. And I'm really excited that this is being recorded so that we can reach some additional audience members. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for our esteemed panel. Thank you. Bye-bye.